And then what have you learned in the last couple of years working with Bob and Jerry about whether it's their principle or character or whatever as they go through this process now that ramped up, I guess, this week with the lawsuit?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, what I would say is that Bob Jenkins is so dedicated to this sport. And what I mean by that is, I mean, he probably wouldn't want me saying this, but he has spent millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of his own dollars to be in this sport and to be competitive. And nobody does that, unless they're insane or super passionate. And, Bob's very passionate. He's passionate about the sport. He's passionate about our race team and getting competitive. And, it's been a steady progression. And I feel like we're at a point now where, we're a contender. And we're a contender week in and week out. And so, they've fought really hard to be in the spot that we're in now, to be as competitive on the racetrack as we are. And then Jerry's been around the sport a long time, and he's a guy that everybody on our race team leans on, when they're going through good times and bad times. And it's a big family at Front Row. It's not this corporate feel when you walk in. I mean, everybody knows each other's names. We all know each other's families. We celebrate those good moments together, and we fight through the tough ones. And that atmosphere isn't like that everywhere at every race shop. And I think a lot of it has to do with just how Bob and Jerry have gone about their business. We've kind of stayed that small, nimble family feel, and they love the sport. And as far as all the things going on, I mean, I think it just shows, like today, is just how dedicated we are to performing on the track and doing our jobs. And the rest will take care of itself.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Was there any sort of team meeting or anything about, like, hey, what's going on off the track? Let's remain focused on the track. And/or did you have any concerns that now that Front Row is suing NASCAR that might impact performance?
No concerns on it impacting performance. That's all that stuff's happening above my pay grade and my road crew guys' pay grade. We just stayed focused on the task in front of us. And so, it wasn't much of a distraction from that standpoint. And, it's the same thing. When you have a goal in front of you, it's easy to stay focused. And the goal was to come down here and sit on the pole. I mean, it's not just because of trying to have, 5 consecutive super speedway poles. I mean, that's one of it. But the other part of it is that we want to beat Kyle Larson for the most amount of poles in the year. And it's a big goal for us. And I think right now we're ahead. And, he's got great racetracks coming up. I think he probably has more opportunities to get poles from here on out than I do. But he's going to have to execute perfect. And that's the kind of pressure we wanted to put on him. Now, we know he's fighting for a championship, and he is not worried about who gets the most amount of poles. Actually, I think he is. I gave him a little wink before qualifying, and he didn't flip me the bird, but it was close to it. And so, look, we know we're not going to go and win every weekend. This is something that we can win, and we're focused on doing it. And so I'm just happy that we've executed it. And, there's more opportunities. So tomorrow's a big one right in front of us.
All right, Steven, go ahead.
Steven Toronto, CBS Sports. Michael, you've seen pretty much all ends of the business model that NASCAR teams operate under, whether it was the Start Park days back at Phil Parsons and Randy Humphrey's team, or even now when you got to Front Row and it was considerably smaller than it is now. How much of what you've seen and what you've experienced kind of influences the prism for which you view the ongoing charter negotiations and obviously the lawsuits that come out of it?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I did get a memo before I came here of what to not say and talk about, so I don't know if this fits in it. I need to pull up my phone and email. But I can tell you this. Yeah, no. I can tell you, this is what I can tell you, is that when we were starting parking with Phil Parsons and Randy Humphreys, everyone was like, oh, what are these guys doing? They're just stealing from NASCAR, taking the check and going, right? And I know that there was years that Phil lost hundreds of thousands of dollars doing what we were doing. I mean, everybody got paid. There was 10 guys working on that race team and that race car. And if we made the race, we made it. And if we didn't, we didn't. And there was a tremendous amount of pressure on us every single weekend to perform and execute. And everyone, just thought, oh, what are these guys doing? Just wasting space and wasting time, right? And the goal was to never be a starting park team. That wasn't the goal. It's just what we had to do to keep things going. And we worked on sponsorship, and when we got sponsorship, we raced, and that might have only been 5 or 6 times a year. If you made the Daytona 500, you had a little bit of a cushion. If you made Texas, it was great. If you made Indianapolis, that was a bonus. If you missed those races, you lost money. I mean, you lost money. There's no doubt about it. And there was years that we didn't make those races. And so I've seen it from that side. I've seen it from the front row side. And, like I said, I'm not going to go into the details, but I can tell you this for sure, that Bob Jenkins has and continues to spend a tremendous amount of his own money. And every time we ask for more and more resources and more cars and more parts and a Hawkeye, and you guys have heard me talk about it over the years, it's coming out of Bob's pocket. And so I feel like, I can't answer your question all the way, but I can answer it enough to know that there's not a team in the garage, you can quote this, that's more efficient than Front Row Motorsports. Not one team. There's nobody spending what we spend and performing how we perform. Nobody. And if he has to spend his own money, there's a problem.